it on. It's recording now.
Okay.
I'm going to turn it over to Jay and let him start his presentation. We'll work on this afterwards. But I think you're really going to like this. I've seen you all up at the table looking at the stuff that he makes. And this is just a tiny portion of what he makes. I asked him for a couple of pictures, and he sent me a couple hundred.
Yeah. You know, my wife sent you directions were pick some of your favorites.
Yeah, she had about 200 favorites. They were all pretty neat. But this program here, he sent me the pictures so they could help him with this program. But it's all Jay. I'll turn it over to you, Jay.
When you come over to a carving class, there are some faces in here that you will see over there. And some of them are Bill Morris, who is here, and George Hamilton. Now, you saw the clock that he made. He's working on a mural right now. It's like 6 feet long and 2 feet wide, and it's a diorama of the Mount Diablo range, and it's really something to see. Jeff Tanner's in here, and he's a carver, and his wife is a carver. And I want to tell you a little story about Jeff. He doesn't want to do this, but he and his wife are members of the Tri-Valley Carving Club down in Pleasanton. And one year I entered down there, and I took Best of Show with the wood turning. And the next year, he took Best of Show with the wood turning. Beautiful bowl, segmented bowl. And I noticed in looking at the last set of rules and stuff for some of the competitions, wood turning's no longer on there. So I don't know what kind of a message we sent them, but they still have a category for wood turning with carved enhancements. So they've changed the rules a little bit. Vern is a turner and a carver and does some very nice work. Roz Harper is past pres of Medea, or of Wawa, and too many clubs. And I have to agree with everything she says, because when she comes to class, she sits at the table right behind me, and she has one of these also. And I always agree with Roz. She's a kick to work with, because she'll come in with something. Every time she comes to class, she comes in with something. So, what does it look like? What do you think we can do with this? And we'll cuss and discuss, and so will everybody else. And she'll take a bunch of ideas, go to the library, come back, and she will pencil in the design, she will burn in the design, and she will paint it and walk out the door with something for next Saturday's craft sale. I mean, it's amazing to watch this gal work. And of course, Dave Bentley is our vice president, and turning into a fabulous wood carver. And I really want you to look at the leaves and so on that he's done on that. It's just amazing what he's done. Okay, between this room and that room and that room, we all have one rule in common: safety first. And I'm going to bring it up over and over and over. Now, I learned at 10 o'clock yesterday morning that I was changing the lesson plan for today, so I had to write out a whole bunch of new stuff. In the carving class, we use chisels, and we'll talk about chisels. Chisel. We use knives. Safety first. We use power carving. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. And we use hot knives, which is pyrography, and that stuff can burn you so fast, okay? You've really got to be careful with it. So chisels, there are lots of brands of chisels out there, but the best ones on the market are Swiss-made. They're interesting in that rule number 1 comes into effect because 2 sharp points, a sharp razor sharp blade in between, and Mother Nature says sharp metal falls first on your shoe.
Oh yeah.
Be careful. The majority of the accidents come when you're taking this out of a tool roll or putting it back in, because your tool rolls can be as many as 26 of these tools, 13 across from each other and 13. And when you open it up, you've got 26 blades right there waiting for you. So you learn very quickly that you get out your tools, you put them blade away, make sure that you are watching what you are doing all the time. And another little fun thing is you're going to need a mallet. Now, do not buy a mallet from a catalog. They come in different sizes, different weights, different hand grips. This I made in this very room on a Saturday morning in a class called How to Be Friends with Your Skew. Well, one major catch, and the skew and I are no longer friends, and I did it with spindle roughing gouge. But I paid for the wood, and here it is. I have 3 mallets. One I got at a peddler's fair because it was pretty well banged up, and that's what I use to put my drive in when I'm doing turning. And one I made for my grandson because he's a little bit smaller hands than mine and so on. But you're going to need a mallet, okay? So rule number 1, leather apron. Leather aprons come in real handy because you're going to use it this way, you're going to use it this way, you're going to use it this way with a mallet, and you're going to use it this way sometimes. A leather apron is highly recommended, and leather shoes. I never wear tennis shoes if I'm using these because it happens. It happens so fast. Now these come in different sizes. This is a regular size. Let's see. They come in this size, all kinds of hand tools. Flex Cut makes a ton of these little goodies, and they come in fixed handles or with interchangeable blades. But this is where your tools are, folks. You got to look at the end of it. That's what you're working with. And they even come in this size. They're a bear to sharpen, but boy, can you use these little guys. You use them on hair, you use them on faces, all kinds of things. You can use them on birds, you can use them on flowers, you can use them on leaves, all kinds of good stuff. Not too many people understand much about chisels. Now when you open a catalog, be it Craft Supply or Packard or Woodcraft or what's that one across town? Rockler. When you look at one of their catalogs, you get all these cute little pictures, colored pictures, you get brand names, you get artist names, you get all kinds of information, and every one of them has a size and a name. When you look at a carving catalog, this is what you get. I'm going to pass this around in a minute. This is all you get. Now, if you see a picture of anything, it's probably because they're trying to sell you a set of 6 that you will use the most, or the ones that they want to get rid of. But you're going to get a set of 6. That's going to bring you around $200. So what I paid $10, $20 for 10 years ago are now $30, $40, $50. Okay, they are not cheap. Now this one happens to be a 714. 714. You know what a spindle gouge is. You know what a roughing spindle gouge is. This is a 714. How do I know? It's the one I highlighted on here. What you're looking at is the working end of that chisel. And that's the only thing you really want to pay attention to. Now you'll notice it says on here, number 1 and number 2 is the same column. Well, this is a number 1, and this is a number 1, 2, according to some manufacturers. Some of us call it a 1S for, guess what? It's a skew. Okay? But what you're really looking at is it's the only ones that are flat, sharpened on both sides. That's the first number all the way down here. Now this chart says 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, but there's 2, 4, 6, 8. I mean, it's just too many tools to think about. But this shows you what you're looking at, okay? I have 2 of these in my set because this is my favorite little tool, and I'm going to be using it here shortly. 714. Now the 14 is the distance from this tip to this tip in millimeters. Now when we had Karen here in February, she said she was doing her grid, which I'm going to do in a minute. Millimeters, no fractions, okay? This is just a smidge over a ½ inch. But you can do so much damage so quick with one of these. And you'll notice the bevel has got a slight curve to it because you're working this way. And when I demonstrate here in a minute, you're going to find out very quickly that cross grain is more effective in controlling your cut than going with the grain because you don't know where that grain's going to go. And what was it you said last month? Might take an unexpected trip across your shop, a tour. You can send wood chips flying all over the place with one of these suckers. So they're really cool. But I marked the one on here. I use 2 of them when I start a project because they're both sharp. When it starts getting resistance, I pick up the other one. When it starts giving me resistance, it's time for a break. Okay, it's time for a break. Sharpen your tools, walk around, talk to people, whatever. But I'm going to send this around here in just a minute. in turning your tools to go inside of things, have bent handles or bent shafts. Same thing with carving tools. If you're going to do a bowl, now this is a bowl I just started. I'm going to do 2 of these because I like folk artsy. My wife likes smooth and practical. Okay? But they have like scoops and all kinds of things. They do have bent shafts on them. This is just getting started, and when you're doing a bowl with chisels, it's just the opposite of when you're doing it on a lathe. On a lathe, you put it between centers, you put on a tenon, then you do the back, turn it over, chuck it, da-da-da-da-da. You do it backwards here. Cut it out on a bandsaw, even if it's an oval or a round shape, cut it out on a bandsaw. You need the base underneath it because you're going to pound on it. You're going to dig, you're going to push all kinds of things. Then you turn it over and do the back side. Okay? You know, pass that around. See it. But I'm doing 2. One for my ego and one for my wife, and then I've got a cherry one already cut out on the bandsaw ready to go. Depending on which style she might like better. Okay?
Jay,
Yes.
when you're carving the inside because it's flat on the bottom, how does it stay on the workbench? Do you have like a rubber pad?
Good question. I'm going to be there in just a minute.
Okay, sorry.
Back to safety first. I don't want it flying around the room. Knives. Oh my goodness, we use knives. Another, rule number 1, safety first, okay? If you're gonna use a knife, when you're carving, strongly suggested that you get a Kevlar, yeah, you heard that, military style glove. You have to work to cut yourself if you've got a Kevlar glove and you're holding something. Like if you're carving on a face, this hand is vulnerable. So a Kevlar glove is highly, highly recommended. And something else is the thumb, the knife, whatever your you know, you can get a thumb guard. You can buy these. I think they were like 3 for $5 or something. Don't waste your money. Cut the thumb off of a garden glove, wrap it with duct tape. You can get them, you know, it's either that or a box of Band-Aids. Put them on early or put them on late. You're gonna use the Band-Aids if you're not careful with it. Okay, let's see here. What else did I have done under that? Thumb guard, the glove, yeah. Ladies, these are bulky, they're big, but if you go to a quilting shop, you can get a quilter's leather thumb thimble. They come in different sizes. Now my wife bought one of those for me and said one size fits all. Well, guess what? My hand's a whole lot bigger than hers. So this is a total waste of money, but if you want to go cheap, just get a garden glove and cut it off, okay? But this is highly, highly, highly recommended. Power carving. One of these little guys. Now, Dremel is the catch-all term for all power carvers. Anything smaller than a chainsaw, Dremel gets blamed for. It gets credit for things it didn't do. It gets blamed for things it didn't do. There's a ton of brands of these. And things to look out for with these. Let's see, power carving. We got flex shafts with accessories. We got grinders, micro motors, air turbines, angle grinders, reciprocating carvers, wood burners. I mean, a ton of stuff. And I'm going to pass this around now with the chart on the other side. This book tells you everything you want to know about power carving. It's got a list of all the brands. It's written in the style of Consumer Reports. It's put out by the publishers of Wood Carving Illustrated. It just updated it. This one says Power Carving Tools and Techniques, but it now says Power Carving Manual. This one, if you can find it, it's $10. It's 120 pages. If you get the new one, it's $25, and it's 200 plus pages. Basically the same material that's in the one that I have and I use all the time. It even has stuff on airbrushes, on air dust collections. The section on burrs, same thing, a picture of everything in color, a description of it. It even tells you how to clean it. How do you clean your burrs? It's in there. And when you're looking at the different power tools and everything else, it gives you a color picture of it. It gives you a specs chart of everything that's in it. It gives you the name of the company, the address, and the email address, the phone number, everything you need to know about who, what, when, and where. And the suggested retail price, don't pay $250 for something you can get for $185. People will try to sell these things at garage sales and everything else. If you know what you're looking at and know the price, you got it made in the shade, okay? The projects are wonderful, and it shows you everything you need to know about how to use them, how to clean them. Most of the microcarbers come with brushes in the motor. It tells you where they're located in the unit, how to get to it, how to repair the brushes, all that kind of stuff. Now with the bigger power tools, Fordham and Wheatshare, Fordham goes up to a 1/3 horsepower and up to 1800 RPMs. The big Wheatshare goes up to a 1/4 horsepower. It goes 26,000 RPMs. The problem with those are they have a flex cable, which is bulky. It's in the way. They come with a key to lock the mechanism and a wrench to get the burrs in and out of, which get lost very quickly in your piles and piles of dust. And foot pedals. Now, gentlemen, this is not for the ladies. Ladies are going to laugh about this, but do not, under any circumstances, ever borrow your wife's sewing machine pedal. I mean, you will pay. They come with foot pedals. I've got 6.5 pounds of steel in each leg, so I don't use my foot pedals. First thing I do is get rid of them, because if you're up here and you don't use the foot pedal, the switch is up here. Here, the switch is right here. I can turn it off, I can turn it on, whatever. Piece of cake, okay? The smaller size, Dremel, is the next size down. Dremel goes up to about 35,000 RPMs. It has a thumb lock, but it still has a wrench to get your burrs in and out. No wrench. No wrench. It's got a lock right here. It's open, it's shut. That's all it takes to change a burr. That quick. Plus, this comes with a reverse. This is a right-handed tool, and all of the grooves and so on in your burrs are for right-handed people. You can put it in reverse and do it this way, okay, and get the feel of where you're going. But everything is going backwards as far as the tool is concerned. Now, every one of these tools can hurt you. Every one of these tools can get away from you very quickly, whether it's a burr or a chisel or a knife or whatever. The grain will do you no favors. So once you're working with these, and learn how to handle them appropriately, okay? Learn your tools, learn how to use them appropriately, learn how to keep them sharp and maintained, and you knock most of your problems with safety first out the door. Okay? The micro motors. The no reverse, or the no wrench thing is a big factor, but the no wrench thing is the biggest thing going, because you can snip and snap these things so quick. It's funny. Now, when you talk about wood burners, and the wood burners are also mentioned in here, every one of them that's out there. Hallwood, razor tip. Detail Master is no longer in business. I have a lot of Burn Master tips. Got a hot deal down at Woodcraft from Mike Cunningham. I bought the one with the dual plate, the dual ports. And oh, by the way, Jay, if you want this, I'll throw in some of these tools too at a really good price. Well, I bought 10 tools he said I would absolutely need. I've used 3. And one of them, I bought several more because I found out he was going out of business. The only tools in the burners that you really need are, now this one happens to be the small writing tool. You can do a lot of damage with one of these. Like I said, it's a hot knife. The one I use the most is a skew. Oh, let's see. This is one. It's the skew with the rounded heel. If you ever did any leather work, you can use this like a swivel knife. You can get right up on the tip. You can do your curves so fast and so easy, and it doesn't hang up on that back sharp corner. I've got 2 more of these waiting. You can see this one's starting to get to the point where it gets a little hot. They've come up with some new ones that have the air holes and everything else, and they're really sharp. But if you can find some of these at a garage sale or online or something, these are the best out there. Now, mine is 7, 8 years old, my unit, and so for Christmas, I got myself, my wife said, what do you want? Go buy it. This is the Burn Master. Now there's a big difference in distance between here and here. I like the distance here on that. I'm getting used to slowly. I just don't spend that much time with it yet, but I'm getting there. But the Burn Master is 10 times more powerful than the Detail Master. It's so much hotter, so much quicker, and like I said, this is a hot knife. It can really do damage very quickly. So safety first, and safety first when it comes to this kind of stuff. Incidentally, this is the unit that Molly Walton, or Winton, Molly Winton used when she was here and gave a demo. Several of the other Dixie Bigs and so on really go for this one. So I thought, okay, those gals know what they're doing. And I'm learning to like it. If you see anything with the name Sue Walters or Laura Irish, those gals are great burners, they're great teachers, they have tons of material out there, pattern books and all kinds of things, all published by the same outfit that does the manuals there, Fox Chapel. All the information is on that sheet that's going around there. So tons of good stuff. If you want to find some of these things, you know, Michael's is a great place to go. Take a sandwich, take a drink, go have fun in there. And when you're in there, you'll notice there are two art sections. One is the high-priced paint, the high-priced brushes, the high-priced canvases, all that stuff. And all the really neat books are there on the ends of the aisles. Now the other section is the 99-cent bottles of paint, which don't knock them. I've used a ton of those because Grandpa made 7 dollhouses. No, those are the paints you use. In fact, dollhouse paints are on one of these here. I'll show you in a minute. But that section has your transfer papers, all of your other good stuff, and you can buy your basswood there, you can buy carving wood there, you can buy burning wood, you can buy the basswood with the wood grain natural edge on the boards. You'll see some of those in there. You can buy the ovals and so on there. My wife said, hey, I got an idea for Easter. Why don't you turn some eggs and the kids can color eggs, keep them out of the kitchen. So I got some basswood and I turned some eggs. You can buy them at Michael's for a lot cheaper. You know, just put the butcher paper on the kitchen table and give them the pens and let them go to it. And you might want to go out on your lathe and make them an egg holder, an egg cup. So they can put their name on the bottom of it, so they can put it right there at their place at the table. And you know, that's something that's kind of cool that they can take home with them and everything else. Periodicals. This was mentioned in the newsletter. Periodicals that are coming out. Not too many wood turning periodicals anymore. There used to be a whole bunch of them. But the biggies are, and this one is put out by Fox Chapel, it's wood carving. Full of good ideas, full of tips, wonderful projects, step by step, all that. Now the one that was mentioned in the article is this one. It's called Wood Carving. It's published in England from the Guild of Master Craftsmen. They also make one called Wood Turning. Great books, good part. It's fun reading the way they put their phrases together and some of the vocabulary that they use. So if you don't know what kitchen roll is, it's called paper towels. You know, but this one's expensive. Yeah. Very expensive. It runs around $8 to $10 a copy. You used to get it at that Barnes and Noble, but if you go online, you know, I mean, this is $80 to $100 for a year. It comes out about monthly. But you go online and you get it for a third that. You don't have the hard copy in your hand, but give you something to look at there while I'm babbling away up here. The one on turning, I have found so many wonderful projects and so on. So it's a great resource to have, and I have a few of them left in my garage. So. Time to get to work. Somebody asked a question about how do you hold down your wood. Well, on a lathe it's easy. You got it right here. But for carving, you have to have some way of holding it still. So you're either going to hold it in your hand, or, and this is my favorite right here. Just this. piece of wood, leftover plywood. Actually, this leftover plywood was from a President's Challenge a number of years ago where we had to do some glue ups and so on. One by two, another one on the bottom. If you're right-handed, leave this side open. If you're left-handed, leave this side open. When you put it down, it's not going anywhere. And if you are doing a lot of cross work, clamp this down. Put the clamp in from the bottom of your table so you don't have that big thing in your way up there. Another thing I love about this is, because of this on the back, I have an easel. I have plenty of chunks of wood in my garage that are 4 inches and 6 inches high. There it is. My work can sit right on there, and I can burn, I can paint, I can carve, I can do all kinds of stuff with this one tool right here. Love it. And here's our good old shelf liner again. You need, when you're carving and painting, you need something else to help to hold your hands, to hold your stuff together. Sandbag, a bean bag. A neighbor of mine was a scuba diver, and he put a lot of his stuff in a garage sale. I have 4 3-pound weights. They're about yay long and about this big, and 4 5-pound weights, which are square, about this big. They're full of lead shot. They're not going anywhere, but you can bend them, you can push them, you can stack them. Anything you can put to support the neck of your vases and so on, or to pile in front of you so you're working this way. Okay, you need something like that when you're carving. Something to support your work. A lot of people clamp things down. Well, yeah, you clamp this down. That way you can just go on. But you know, you're going to want to turn your work. You're going to want to turn it a lot. So do it the simplest way possible. Sandbags, bean bags. Oh, foam. This is cool. This is insulation. I have 4 of these, different size bowl shapes. You can put it right here, it locks in, it sits right there, and it supports the wings of what I'm doing out here. I can work all the way around it. Or I can turn it, you know. Oh, it's so simple. And you can use, go to Beverly's, or go to Joann's and get a pillow form. It's foam. Go to any upholstery shop that's doing carving, doing coverings and so on for your campers or for your picnic table benches and everything. They got foam. They'll sell you foam. Okay? We've had several people that come in and have used just the foam or packing foam, stuff like that. But that's another way that you can secure your work. Well, let's see. Wood turning. Select the wood. Select a shape. Turn your shape. I'm going to put a design on it. It's a boring piece. I'm going to put a design on it. Hey, fine. Select your design. How do I get the design from here to there? Well, freehand. You know, this is a handy tool. It's got an eraser on the other end. Cool. Really cool. Freehand. Make a pattern. Let's see. Where's my makeup pattern? Here's patterns. Stuck to my ruler there. I have a bowl up here, or a plate. Here's my pattern. Now I turn the bowl, I put a lip around the inside and on the outside. Now this is English Holland in its early stage before it gets to its Christmassy shape. And here's the pattern. You can do it left, you can do it right, you can turn it over. And the most inexpensive pattern material in the world. Cut up a cereal box. This stuff is so fantastic and so reusable, and you can make another one really quick. If you're working on a flat or an almost flat surface, this is cool. Okay? And again, it's cheap. Transfer paper. Don't use carbon paper. No, it's oil-based graphite paper. Now this is at Michael's. My Michaels over there in Vallejo has two sizes. They just added a third I'll mention in a minute. This is the larger size, this is the smaller size. This company seems to be taking over a lot of what's going on at Michaels. But if you want the item numbers and so on that you can find at Michaels, why, write them down. Martha Stewart is taking over a lot of Michael's area too, and she's got all kinds of stencils and paints and brushes and stuff like that. And I've never used it, but I've seen it on it comes in a plastic case about this size, the size of our flyers over there, and it's just called transfer paper. Now, graphite paper is erasable. You can transfer stuff. You know, we used to do this as kids. You turn something over and you, with a pencil, and then you turn it over and you, by golly, you make your own graphite paper. But the new transfer paper is blue. Several people have used it in the class. I haven't tried it yet. I've noticed a lot of things on some of the videos and so on that some of the people use. What they're using for pyrography now is blue, because you're going to burn it away anyway. But the package you're looking for is hanging on the wall in the Martha Stewart stuff. It's just this transfer paper. But I don't know anything other than that about it. It's just another one of her new products. So good luck. Let me know how you like it. We'll see what happens. Douglas Fisher. Douglas Fisher was here a couple of years ago. He's from up in Vancouver area. He's the one that brought in the big wall hangings with the concentric circles and the off-turning circles and a dome in the middle. He has a very unique way of transferring his patterns. He designs his pattern to fit the hole or the dome that he's going to do it on. He wads it up really super tight, opens it up so it's quickly and is very mild. It'll fit anything. It's quick spray with the spray adhesive. Goes like this, then he burns right through it. Okay, it's easy to clean up. If it doesn't peel right off, just 92% isopropyl alcohol cleans all that stuff off and everything else. So it's a really neat way to do it. Something I never thought of, but I learned very easily was, and very quickly, is a rubber stamp. If you're going to make a bunch of coasters, or you're working with some scouts, or a 4-H group or something like that, and you're going to do something and you want 12 copies of this, a rubber stamp and a stamp pad. It's the same pattern. Nobody gets anything better than anybody else. And you can get a blank stamp pad and you can get your own color of ink. So if you're going to burn, brown ink is wonderful. If you miss, so what? Brown. It's right there. Chip carvers. Chip carvers have it made in the shade because they only buy 4 knives. That's all you need for chip carving. Okay? But what they do is you can get an iron. It looks like the old-fashioned Boy Scout branding tool. It's got about the size of a nickel, between a nickel and a quarter on the end of it. You heat it up. They take and make a laser jet copy of their pattern, turn it over, and they iron it right on. I don't know what's in the toner or what that causes it to transfer, but they iron on their patterns. So there's so many little intricate lines and so on in their designs that that's the easiest way for them to handle it. So iron on. Oh, my new favorite. My new favorite. Foam. If you're going to cut out a leaf or something like that, and I've got 1 or 2 here that I'm going to show you in a minute. 99 cents at Michael's. Don't let your grandkids see this from kindergarten on. They love this stuff. Okay? I first got introduced to this because my grandson cut off a piece about yay by yay, and he made me a mouse pad of this with a design that he'd done with a fish with his handprint and all that kind of stuff. This is what the kids use. They put magnets on it, Easter eggs, Christmas trees, stars, you name it. This stuff is so cool. And like I said, if they see it, you don't see it. It's gone. Product numbers on the back, on the bottom. 99 cents. That, I got a hot deal on that. I got 5 sheets for $4 or something like that. I'm still on my second sheet as a design transfer piece. I was so excited when I read the January newsletter because Karen was coming. And Karen was going to introduce something that when I was first a member of wow. It was a big deal 10, 12 years ago. And that is the grid. She put a grid on a cylinder. And the grid is an idea that I had never thought of, and all the stuff and messing around that I've done. She did it on a cylinder. Well, here's the double grid on a cone. It's called a Christmas tree. Same thing, same exact grid that she put on her cylinder, on those candlesticks. Here it is on a cone. These are practice pieces that ended up being part of a Christmas display because my wife wanted a thimble tree. Now, I am not a fan of, sorry Brad, I am not a fan of mass producing items. But Mike, who was supposed to be here today, asked me to make him some thimble blanks for a class he was teaching down in Woodcraft. So I'm in the garage making thimble blanks, and my wife comes out and says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, this is for a project for Mike." She said, "Well, you know, she's a member of the Cartoon Straight Stitchers. She's quite a culture." She says, "Christmas is coming." I said, "Yeah. Your point is?" Well, about 150 thimbles later, it didn't dawn on me that thimbles come in different sizes. Now, you don't need any special tool for making thimbles, and after you make your first 2 or 3, you can turn out a dozen of them by lunchtime. All you need is a 3/8 inch drill, go in 3/4 of an inch, and a 3/8 inch gap. Period. Do your inside, do your outside, cut it off. That's all the harder they are, folks. And there's a picture of it coming up here shortly. Back to Karen. You can burn and carve or anything on any shape. Eggs are cool because you can flatten them out. You can do it. This started out to be an egg. I was doing a wolf. Grandson likes wolves. I started to do a wolf, and it just wouldn't work right. I couldn't get the face right and everything else. I got very frustrated with it. And so I did the double spiral. It's the same as that. The same exact thing that Karen did in her demo. I took out just a little bit, but here's the spiral. And I put an owl in it instead. But you know, sometimes out of silly things comes some stuff that's kind of fun. And back to Karen's demo, when I saw what she was going to do, I was making these bowls that I brought for show and tell. This is a fluted bowl without using a router. What I used was the grid, and I'm going to pass this around. One of the easiest grids you'll ever make. You only need 2 horizontal lines. You need a line for where your bottom is going to be, and you need a line up toward the top to where you can get your spacing. You're going to measure it just like she did with a metric tape measure. Here's the circumference of that bowl at the point where I put my bar. Okay, measure it with a metric ruler so you can just use your whole numbers. That's 20 1/4 inches. These, let's see, I wrote on here, 18 millimeters apart. These horizontal lines you do on the lathe. These, once you get your spacing down, how do you get your straight lines? Make yourself a tool. This works so cool. You can do it. Sometimes I take things off the lathe, but still in the chuck because I need the weight to hold it down on the bottom. This is so easy. Okay. Here it is. Here's the whole bowl. There's the grid. Step 1, that's the tool I'm going to use. Step 2 is a little bit bigger. Step 3, I used a 1/4 inch sanding drum. Step 4, I used a 3/8 inch sanding drum. Step 5 got me in big trouble on one of mine because I was sanding from strength to weakness. And you can get tear out. This is just nothing but a hard rubber sanding helper. Wrap your sandpaper around it. If you're going to do something like this, go from weakness to strength. Otherwise, you're going to get tear out. One of my bowls is about 1/8 of an inch shorter than the other, just because I had to put it back on the lathe, redo the top with the rim and so on. So here's the whole bowl right here. Step, 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 step. on one demo piece. You might want to stick that on there too. Now, like I said, my wife is a quilter, and I'm borrowing things all the time. So she bought me a 2-inch wide, 12-inch plastic ruler, see-through. I cut it in half, so I have a 12-inch straight edge, and I cut the other one in half. There's 6 inches of it there, and the other 6 inches is what I use to connect the dots. And the only difference between the two bowls is this one goes from line 1 to bottom of line 3. What's there is line 1 to bottom of line 2. Lays it out.
Jane, is your T-square the distance of the angle? Is that how it goes?
No, all that you'll see on there is just straight lines.
Yeah, but the straight line, you got to cross that. to
Yeah,
the-
that's where I used the other half and went from
Yeah.
this mark to this mark.
Do you bend it around the,
Yeah, it's flex.
I mean, is that how you lay them out and bend
Yep.
it around it
Yep.
to make the lines?
You can buy 6-inch.
That's all it takes. All you need is a plastic straight edge, something that you can see through.
Fabrics.
Incidentally, I learned a long time ago that my best friend at the time was Tap Plastics.
Yeah.
You can go to Tap Plastics and you can get 3 inches all the way up to as big a plastic bowl guides as you want, and you can lay them on there. You can see where it's going to fit on the pattern of the grain and so on. It is so cool. And they'll even drill the holes in the center for you, so you send a bunch of, cost you like a quarter or something like that, and they'll do it. When we were doing that with Karen, it brought back memories of when we had a demonstrator. His name is Trent Bosch from Fort Collins. He does things in the style of John Jordan with bowls, but what he does up around the lip is fantastic, and he lays it all out on a grid. And you know, we have all those demos back here in the library. Another one was J. Paul Fennell. I took a workshop with him. I learned how to do the basket weave, all kinds of things like that. Regular basket weave, not the illusion, but real basket weave. How to lay out things like this. Fluted bowls, he's the one that got me going on fluted bowls. And how to use the gouges and so on. Again, I had to do a rewriting of the lesson plan here, so excuse me just a second. Other people that we've had, who I highly recommend if you get a chance to see them or check out their videos. We had Graham Priddle here a couple of times from Australia. And he's a turner, he's a carver, he's a driller. He drills holes and things all over the place. He burns things. He not only burns things, he torches things, and then he paints it. And his stuff is really cool. Jack DeVos was another one, what we had. His whole demo was about as simple a design as you want. That's it. But you can change the design and you can change the neck. In the video or the pictures up here, there's going to be 4 of these with different here, different here. Same little hollow form.
You can also use that for crafts.
You can use that
Hands
as
for
crafts.
Not that that ever happened.
Here's the same thing now. A lot of people knock redwood. Yeah, redwood is not easy on your lungs, but redwood is beautiful. It's beautiful to work with. And depending on the grain patterns and so on, you can put something like this into that kind of a grain pattern, and it fits in. It fits in so well. But these guys and gals have demos that we have used. Ben Poe, we've had as a demonstrator. He's into piercing, thin wall turning. He's into airbrushing. His stuff is here. Now this is the first vase that I carved on. And it's calla lily. But I took it to someone whose opinion I respect and say, tell me what's wrong with it. He said, it's too fat, it's too big, too tall. So talk to me about that. He said, and this is another thing that was a big deal back 10, 12 years ago, the 2/3 rule, the golden rectangle. Where is this going to fit appropriately to your eye when you're looking at something? He said the same thing happens when you're looking at a design. Technically, when you're looking at a cylinder, you really only see 120 degrees of that circle, that surface area. He said, that's the 1/3 you do your work in. You don't see what's over here, so why bother to carve it up? You don't see what's on the back, unless you're gonna carve in the round. If you're gonna do a design that goes all the way around, make it so people wanna look at it and walk around and see it. You can tell just by looking at it that it goes all the way around. Okay? Just by looking at it, you know. But if you're gonna do something like this, it's too big, it doesn't fit. Take your pattern, go to your copy machine, go to your printer, resize it, and make it fit. And if you like it, who cares what they think, you know? Anyway, I learned very quickly that if you're going to do something, confine it to that 120 degrees of surface area that you're actually looking at. Okay? Here's another one. All the way around. Same pattern as this. Same exact leaves. This was a rotten piece of black walnut, had a crack in it, so I CA'd the holy you know out of it. It also had an incision, or an inclusion of bark that went a lot deeper than I thought, so I put wood hardener on it. Well, trying to get CA glue and wood hardener out of a finish is like when you cut yourself, blood doesn't stand out too easy. Okay? So you paint it. And what are you going to use for colors?
Red, obviously, for some of them.
In this case, quilting material is a good source. I took this with me and I went to Michael's and I got the paints that fit in this pattern pretty well. I brightened it up a little bit by thinning them a little bit. But it's the same exact pattern that I used over here. Same exact leaves. So your materials come from anywhere. The bottom row of feathers, it's half a quarter all the way around. Then from then on you can use a compass and go top, middle of top to middle of top and so on. Get all the layers you want. The burning tool that I used on here was the other burning tool that I bought that I didn't get from Woodcraft when I bought my hot deal, is just a larger skew. If you're burning feathers and so on, good tool to have.
Coming out.
Now, Mike was supposed to bring all kinds of stuff on carving, so this came out of the closet really quick. We do fish, we do fowl, we do all kinds of things in here. Everybody gets to do a dolphin sooner or later. Okay? Everybody gets to do a dolphin. It might not look like that one, but that's okay. Let's see here. Design transfer. Back to a pattern. This is just a magnolia leaf. Do I do 6? Do I do 8? Do I do 3? I'll do 8. How do I space it out evenly? 8th grade geometry. If there was ever a kid that was going to get in trouble in school, it was me. But I was always coming up with stuff like this. Put it on, mark it off at the quarters. The black lines are the quarter circles. Turn it a quarter of a turn. You now got 8 spots. That's where you put the end, the focus point of your leaf down here. Now you got a decision. Are they all under? Are they all over? Does every other one overlap? How do you space them out? Right here. Now, this one I have a double chart. The red lines are thirds and sixths. The black lines are quarters and eighths. I love doing things in rod. 5. And I also have in there a metric conversion chart. I have this in my binder where I keep all the manuals that I get with my tools. And it sits on the shelf. It's not in a drawer or under a bunch of ball blanks. This is right on top. You can make one of these so quick. Now this is too big. This is a 9-inch plate. That's 8.5. Go to your good friends at Kinko's. They love this. I want to put this design on that. How do I make this 9 inches? They say 35 cents. Okay, it's got to be from here to here. And they'll do it for you so quick. And then all you have to do is use your transfer paper. This is a Gordian knot. This is a quilt pattern. I use lots of quilt patterns. I have a real nice library of quilt patterns. A lady in class had a son who was going to build a boat, and he was buying teak and storing it in their basement. She got rid of a lot of the teak. This is teak. Good old piece of scrap wood. My wife is into owls, so this is just a regular relief carving. You can carve and burn into anything. This is sycamore, Landana Drive over by Concord High. Sycamore Lane. Every once in a while they cut down a tree. If you know they're cutting a go get some fun wood to work with. A friend of ours said, hey, we're cutting down the tree, come get some blanks. I went over and got some. I did probably 12 or 14 bowls and had them on the dining room table, and I went and looked at it and said, this one's mine. Well, the grain helps complement the waves. So I said, that's a lighthouse. I'm currently carving a lighthouse in the bottom of a bowl right now. It's a challenge. But designs come from everywhere and anywhere. I mean, we've got leaves, we got, granddaughter project. Grandpa, can you make one of these? I said, sure, I'll make it if you color it. Colored pencils are the new thing in color. There are regular, this is Prismacolor from Michael's. Take your 50% or 40% off coupon because they're expensive. But she did all the coloring on that. You can get oil-based colored pencils now. You can get alcohol-based pencils now. You can get multicolored colored pencils now. You're coloring red and all of a sudden a streak of gray comes out of that lead. Adds real interesting texture. A lot of fun. Also in class, we not only do fish, sometimes we do birds. This was a class project. No, I did not turn the birds on the lathe. But I did the flowers. This is the beginning of a morning glory. Turned it on the lathe. People saying, can you make me 3 of those? Yeah, bring me the wood. Can you make me 3? Yeah, bring me the wood. So I did this much for them, and they did the rest of it with a sanding drum. Dremel sanding drum. Now people are saying, I love my sanding drum, but they're too expensive. No, 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 no. Don't go to Ace Hardware or any of those places that sell little packages of Dremel. Excuse me while I dive.
Give me some plug something.
45 sanding drums. 15 quarter, 15 3/8, 15 half, 2 mandrels for each, $9.99 on Amazon.
Where is this?
Amazon. You'll pay $6 or $5 at Ace Hardware for a package of maybe 4 sanding drums.
Yeah.
Here's 45 for under $10. When I started carving my first set of diamond burrs, I paid $20+ for a set of about 12. Here's a set of 20 for $4.99 at Ace Hardware on their bargain table. This stuff is out there, folks, and don't pay an arm and a leg for it, okay? It's cheap if you know where to look for it. Okay, I think that's about all of it until we get into the carving class. Question? Yes, sir.
Can you describe some of the woods that are appropriate and not so good to carve on for our turnings? What's a good wood or a bad wood?
Well, for carving and turning, of course, cherry is good, maple is good, walnut is wonderful, sycamore is great. You're going to see a picture of avocado. We did a thing with avocado, and it was green avocado, and it didn't work too well. And so as it turned it and started warping and everything else, I stopped. And I did something totally different with it. It's a beautiful pinkish wood with lacy like sycamore. It's beautiful wood. I would not recommend I would not recommend oak. Do not use oak for basket weave illusion. It's flaky, you can't keep your, it just doesn't work. Now the reason I brought this is, I just finished this. This is my 60th year high school reunion this year. We were the Cheyenne Indians, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Our school colors were black and red, and we had a thing that said, please bring something that shows what you're doing in your retired life. So this cost me, I'd say, about $250. First for the 2 pieces of wood that I got, and the rest went for 4 beading tools. Gots to have beading tools. And finally I got some beading tools.
Hey Jay, should we take a quick break?
We'll take a real quick break.
Right? Let's go 5
Then
minute
I'm gonna
break.
make, then I'm gonna make a mess.
5 minute break, and then Jay is going to make a giant mess. The
Absolutely.
last
That's
person
it.
to sit down after the break gets to clean up. How's that for an incentive?
Nobody's getting up.
Blowing, you'll see the, but that's all the harder that is. There's a will and a way. For those of you who haven't been around for as many years as I have, here's the other thing. When I was talking about the fluted bowl and the plastic ruler, take your tool rest out, make a pencil rest. That's all the harder it is. It's on the lathe. This hand turns the bowl to the next line.
What a smart idea.
Okay? And this one I made just for here because my other one's getting pretty well chewed up.
Still in there, isn't it?
That's another thing. This is all the harder it isn't. Find a way. It's so simple.
I don't know if that's
For those of you who haven't known me very long,
Right.
I was so lucky when I was a kid growing up. I grew up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, back in the 1940s and 50s. World War II was going on, and you didn't have a lot of things that you might have wanted, so you learned how to use your brain, and you learned how to be creative and use your imagination. No TV. My folks didn't have TV until my 3rd year of college. That's Wyoming. In fact, you still can't get good cell service in Wyoming. Everything I did was so easy because my granddad was a carpenter. He was a contractor. He had a tool shop to die for. I grew up with a tool shop. I grew up watching my dad and my uncle and my grandfather build our houses. I watched him in his shop. He was, for his daily pay, he did houses. For his extra pay, he did churches. He was a finished carpenter. He did lecterns and pulpits and communion tables, and he would carve the leaves and the grapes and this do in remembrance of me all across the front of that stuff. And this is where I learned how to do this stuff. And I have to admit, I was a ringer when I walked into Mike's class and found out what I was going to do, because he said, "You're going to make one of these." I said, "Okay, I'll make one of these." And I'll show you what I did to see that. But in growing up, the school system in Cheyenne, Wyoming was fabulous. I wish my kids and my grandkids could have such a wonderful, wonderful experience like I had. Kindergarten through 6th grade, junior high, 7, 8, 9, 9th grade, every student, male and female, took shop. You had a quarter of wood, a quarter of metal, a quarter of leather, and a quarter of plastic electricity. Plastics, I don't know, I've never used it in my life. Electricity, I've used a lot. But leather, metal, and wood. And every kid had to go in during the summer break to the high school PE, or high school home ec teachers and sew an apron. You could not walk into that shop without your apron on. They were tighter on aprons than they were on PE gear. I mean, it was, you're going to burn your clothes, you're going to tear your clothes, you're going to whatever. You had to wear your shop apron, and you had to sew the button on the back of the collar. Now, both of my boys went to the Naval Academy, and when they left, my wife gave them each a sewing kit. And in that was everything they needed to sew on a button. and they knew how to sew on them. They knew how to iron a shirt on a desktop with a towel. I mean, this is stuff you learn when you grow up in an environment like Wyoming. The shop classes were fabulous. Once you got into high school, you could specialize in different ones, but every single student, boy and girl, had to take shop.
That's unusual.
It is unusual. And every student starting in the 3rd grade had to take music. Whoa. Band, orchestra, chorus. We had 7 periods of orchestra in one high school. 7. Home ec, you got in high school. You got it in high school. The school was built for 800. My graduating senior class was 433, so we ended up on double sessions. So it was, and that's in Wyoming. It snowed on my high school graduation. There's 2 seasons in Wyoming, winter and rodeo. Anyway, growing up in that time, if you saw something you liked, you learned how to make it. You had the skills to make it. You didn't have a lot of money. My worst feeling in my whole life was my grandmother in Sterling, Colorado had a whole lane up to her house in black walnut trees. World War II, Army Corps of Engineers came in, cut down every one of them to make rifle stocks. That hurts. Anyway, my granddad was the carpenter. He did all kinds of furniture. Our bedroom set is 1.8 inch thick, solid black walnut, heavier than you know what. The headboard, the chest of drawers, the bureau, everything black walnut. I have his desk, which is white oak. I mean, it is white oak. So that's what I grew up with. Anyway, Mike said, you're going to make a flower. And I've got it covered up because I just want you to look at the flower. Okay? Design transfer. How do you get this flower on a piece of wood? Well, which one do I need? Like I said, I was a ringer when I walked in there. I knew what I was going to need. Ta-da. A coffee cup and a quarter. I don't care where the quarter goes, because if it's off center, it makes it even more interesting. There's the design for the flower. That's all you need, okay? And he's going to send you over to pick up a tool. This one just happens to be the 714, which just happens to be the shape of a quarter.
What? A coincidence.
What a coincidence. Stop cut. Work your way around the quarter. I know this is going to get boring, so I'm not going to go all the way. That's all it takes.
So what
Next
if,
step, you go around the outside.
what if, when you get to the other side, it's not evenly spaced?
Well, this is just going around easy, because this is the outline of the button.
Okay. Okay, so you can just go.
That button right there.
Okay.
Okay. And you're going to not know enough about your tools yet. You're going to go around the outside of the big one with the same tool. Well, it doesn't match anymore. And you're going to make mistakes. But that's the neat thing about this. And once you get all the way around both circles, then you're going to come in with the same tool. And you're going to come and make some chips. The stop cut does just what it sounds like. It's going to stop the cut. So as you're making chips, you start chipping them out, and once you get it to that state, I pass around another goodie here.
There's one hidden.
There's this one right here. Thank you. Here's the pattern. Here's the stop cuts, and it's just like, you're gonna get it looking just like this. Some are over the line, some are inside the line, some are on the line. Here it is with all of those cut out. Okay?
That's basswood, correct?
That's basswood, yes. And I did all that with one tool. Now the middle one is going to show you that this tool doesn't exactly fit that line. So once you know how to read the tool chart, you'll go and get a number 5. And number 5 will fit the outside circle. Okay? And let's see. Once you get it to that point that you're going to see on the bottom there, Mike's going to say, okay, cool, make some pedals. Decision time. Do I want 4 pedals? Do I want 5 pedals? Do I want 6 pedals? Use your pencil. Erase it. Is somebody going to overlap? Somebody going to go, yeah. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since Mike said 6, I did 5. And if any kid was going to get in trouble in school, it was me, because I was always pushing the button. And he said, okay, do another one. So I went back with my piece of wood, and I did 2 more. Now I did all of this in one period over there. Pass that around, let you see what's going on. And so for homework, he said, okay, Mr. Smarty Pants, do something with it. Now in Europe, you see stuff like this all the time up in the corners of the windows and the door frames.
Yeah, I have them in my house.
You know, and if you're doing the restoration work, there's a bundle of money to be made in restoration work with carvings. And you'll walk into a wood shop over in England and say, oh, wow, I want 12 number 8s. Because some are circles, some are flowers, some are this, some are that. And this is how your beginning people, your apprentices, learn first how to sharpen tools, which takes forever because the guy's busy, doesn't have any other time to help you. And then you learn how to do stuff like this. You become a production carver, not a production turner, but a production carver. Mike said, okay, go do something else. So I did this. And that's when he figured out I was a ringer in his class. And this is what I've been doing ever since. So I've had a lot of fun with this. Basswood is the greatest place to start. And when you are chipping across, you are going to learn very quickly that it's easier to control your cut going across the grain rather than with the grain, because with one full swoop and one hit, you're going to knock that button. And we do have CA glue over there, and a lot of it. So if you can find the chip, we'll glue it back on and keep you going. So before I get into the power carving, we want to show you a couple of things. John?
Jay, you're talking about keeping your tools sharp. How do you sharpen? Do you use a grinding wheel or do you use a...
Now, we have a buffing wheel system over there, which the grit is on one and the polish is on the other. That's the easiest way. But if you're going home, you can get a little kit with these and that's and these and those and everything. And there's a compound that you use to hone it, basically, is what you're doing. A leather stroke. I had to make a leather stroke holder, which only took me a period 2. Mike thought it'd take me 3 weeks, and only took me 1 period. Anyway, I was a pain in the rear for him sometimes. But, you know, I knew how to do this stuff anyway, so. I want to thank David for putting this together for me, and it's just something else for you to look at, and if you have questions at the end, I'll be happy to help answer some of these. Let's see, I just swiped it right. Just a regular basic bowl. Basic bowl. Dollhouse paint, leftover dollhouse paint. Make a mosaic pattern with your burner, and then just paint away. Okay? Basic bowl with a wide rim. This is one of my last year I did this. I love trees. And being in Benicia and down by the state park and seeing all the dead trees and all the stuff along the shoreline and the water line, you can work on the flat of the bowl. You can work inside the bowl of the bowl. He's got a buddy coming up here in a minute. This one is up here on the table. this is what got a lot of us into, thank you, Harvey. And there's a lot of little tricks we'll get into there in a minute when we get over on the other carving part. This, my grandkids, I spoil my grandkids terribly. The oldest one is 21 now down in San Jose, and one year she said, "Grandpa, can you make me a dragon?" And you'll see it here in a minute. And I made her a dragon. And then the other two said, "Well, I want a fairy princess." And then another said, "Well, I want a fairy princess too." And in those books that I mentioned at Michael's, there's the great book of fairies, there's the great book of dragons, there's the great book of floral arrangements. If you want a flower, print it off, cut it out, use it. Get bigger, smaller, whatever. My granddaughter said, "Grandpa, make me something for my 18th birthday." That's her silhouette in a hat. That's her. This is some of my wife's thing. Learned how to do that from Jay Paul Fennell. That's just a basic basket weave, not a basket weave illusion. This vase is black walnut. I did the carving just like I was doing over there on the Christmas trees. I started it with a French curve, then I did one cut, then I did another cut, then I used the sanding drum. That's all it took to do that after I did the bowl. The tulips are 6 petals, they're 3, and then an outer layer of 3. You'll learn a lot about these things as you get into trying to make them correctly. I tried that, I didn't like it, so I just overlapped them all the way around. Those would have been wine bottle stoppers, but we don't use our wine bottle stopper. We never have any wine left over, so I made tulips instead. It looks like an apple. It's got 7 petals. It's a hollow form. I made the hole tiny enough that hopefully nobody can get their little finger stuck in it. That bowl is sitting, or that vase is sitting up here on the table. There's the grid. I went overboard. It took me forever to carve those. And I was so fed up, I only went halfway down the bowl. I have to admit it. I just put a stop cut all the way around and I went halfway down the bowl because that was just so time consuming. There's another basket. One of them has straight sides, one of them has a rounded side, but the process is exactly the same. It's a very simple grid. Snowmen, snow ladies. I made these for the Christmas table. Everybody got one with their name on the bottom, each of the grandkids. And I was running out of maple, and so I went to Rockler and talked to Boss Man and said, he said, "Haven't got it. We're getting ready to move the store. I haven't got it. I can't help you." He said, "But I got something that'll work." And he went and got an ash baseball bat blank that had a big ding on one side and pretty roughed up on the end, 38 inches long. He sold it to me for $10. I got 4 more ash. And the granddaughters helped me with the design on the ladies. They wanted the Mary Poppins hat, but they didn't like the bottom of the snow ladies. They said, we don't want that big bottom on there. I said, "What? You don't want the big bottom on there?" They said, "Slim, trim, and no Kardashian." Got it? So they totally changed the snow ladies, and I'm glad they did because they were really fun to make. As I said, I'm into trees. This is just a relief carving. It's a piece of basswood. You can see the 2 different types of wood in there, the heartwood and the sapwood. And I took one look at that, and I moved my plastic guide from Tap Plastics around to get it centered just where I wanted it. And then the paint on that is really interesting. We had to replace a drapery rod in the upstairs big room over our sliding glass door. And we went to Calico Corners and got the rod. And they give you a little bottle of paint. It dries really fast. But it's gorgeous. It's got all kinds of flaky stuff in it. Now you can go to Michael's and buy anything with flakes in it. Gold, silver, pewter, gold, brown, pink, purple. It has glitter in it. But that's actually drapery rod paint. And it's got that nice little metallic look in it. That was a fun one to do. This one's sitting up here on the table. Whoop. How do I go back one? Just slide it back. All pyrography. That's a 10-inch plate. The Great Book of Celtic Designs. But that's all transferred with graphite paper. And then just go to work. When you're doing burning like that, I suggest you do it in the garage with the door open and a fan to suck the smoke out. Because smelling smoke is not good for you, period.
You can get a fan that's used for gourd burning, and it sucks it through a charcoal so it doesn't
really?
set off your smoke alarms.
I just got the smallest one I could find at Osh.
Yeah, well, this is made just for gourd burners
Gourd
use
burners,
it.
yeah.
And so it works,
Cool.
and it's not very expensive, it was like $35 or something.
Well,
Great.
smoke gets to you real fast,
Yeah.
so.
I got it online. Go to a site called Arizona Gourd, and she sells them, and she has a link to where they are.
Good.
She has lots of stuff for carving, burrs, all that kind of stuff. You just have to look outside the wood turning world.
What is your favorite wood for burning?
Arizona Gourd.
Oh, I burn everything.
Okay, but, something like
Sometimes
this,
not
which is,
on purpose. You can make it smaller, or you can burn it, throw it in the fireplace. The design came from Tandy Leather.
Oh, yeah.
I did the rim around the inside and the rim around the outside, and then I did the 4 flowers, and then I filled in with bits and pieces of things from different projects out of Tandy Leather patterns. That's all done with chisels. The neatest way to help yourself out when you're carving with chisels is stipple the background so you don't have to sand it.
There is still a Tandy Leather store. There's one in Hayward.
Is there really?
Yes, off Industrial.
Wow, because I still got a lot of leather, and I still have all my tools too.
Oh, me too.
Tandy Leather has got tons of beautiful pattern books.
You can use I use the leather tools on wood.
Yeah, you can.
I
stamp
just
it
make
for background.
designs, yeah.
Again, this is out of Tandy Leather, wide rim bowl with a taper to it. It's got the 2 sets of the acorns, and then this is a purse pattern here that was like this, and I cut it in half and turned it like this. And on the back, right there, is a knot that was in, so it's got 4 points of interest on it. But it's carved, it's turned, carved, and burned. This one is up here on the table. That's a quilting pattern called a Gordian knot. Another neat book to get on patterns is called Mariner's Compass. Oh, you can get some beautiful designs on Mariner's Compass out of those. Oh, let's see. That one is that's the old redwood fence post. And the top is one of the old insulators
Off a power line.
off power line. And the light, since there's no air in there, is a little battery operated T-light.
Right.
There's your Celtic pattern all the way around. That's in a book, and you've got all the rights you want to copy it and enlarge and reduce and everything else. So that's
Dover,
turned, carved, and burned.
Dover Books is really good for
Yeah,
patterns.
that is wonderful. In Wyoming, growing up in Wyoming, there's all kinds of Western art, period. Western Indian, American Indian. Well, American Indians live in the South, and American Indians live up in Alaska, too. This is Southwest Pueblo. I've got a book of 5 Pueblo families or something like that, pottery.
Right.
And this is originally, what's in the book is black glaze with the gold design on it. And so I had some scraps over, those are about 3-inch diameter. Made 4 of them and put the same design on each one. And I made the base, and I put the base on the dining room table, and I set the 4 bowls out there. And the youngest one, Spencer, came by and good discussion time. Why did you do that? Why did you put that one there? Well, the sister comes by, well, I like it better this way. I mean, fun, fun, fun. And It's never the same way twice. Every time they come by, they want to see where it is, and then they bring it out, they put it their way, and then somebody comes by and changes it. But that's one design on 4 objects that are exactly the same. So you can see 4 different woods.
Question,
Yes?
could you replace your hand chisels with your micro motor with various burrs and do the same kind of job?
Yep. Mhm. You sure can. And it's so much easier. That pattern is out of a tattoo book. There's a book called Tattoo Art. Some fabulous stuff. You don't have to wear it. In fact, I did a plate that I had over here for the open house last December, and it's got this funky, it's called Inca Maze. It's a quilt pattern called Inca Maze, and it's got a little stick man on it. And this gal walks in the door and says, "That's Burning Man. That's the symbol for Burning Man." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, I got a tattoo right here." And then her husband I didn't ask to see any more tattoos, but anyway, tattoo books are a great source of interesting designs for if you want something. Now, this is the plate I did for my oldest granddaughter for her 18th birthday. That's a dragon from the Great Book of Dragons. This plate you can buy at Michael's. They have one style of basswood plate at Michael's. The one that I used on Katie's, the first one you saw, I got at a place called mychipcarving.com. And that's where you can buy chip carving knives and everything. But he sells plates and basswood. You can get them in, last time I was on his site, I think he had 6 different types of plates. Some were concave, some were convex, some have a rim around them, some have a little rim on the outside. But you can order them in 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, 12, 14 inches. And I think the one that I used on Katie's was a 12-inch plate, $15. This is one you can buy at Michael's. It's not quite as good a wood, but it's interesting to work with. Now, some people will say, if you're going to do burning, you got to burnish the wood, and other people say, don't you dare just sand it, you know. So whatever style you like. But that was all transferred with transfer paper, and then just burn away. Celtic design goes all the way around. I do like trees. So I don't know if I've mentioned that before. I do like trees. So that one's pierced.
What do you pierce it with?
An NS.
Well, you start with a 3/8, or no, with a 1/4-inch drill bit. Put your design in and drill it out, and then you can start carving. If you watch the Ben Poe video, he does smaller tools than this with a dental drill that goes up to 400,000 RPMs.
It's an NS.
And then he squares off his corners with hand files and does all his painting with a spray gun and everything. Piercing can get to be a lot of fun. There's another one here shortly. Just oak leaves and an acorn. Now that is the avocado wood. It's a fun wood to work with if it's dry. But boy, will it warp if it's not. That bowl is up here on the table. That little bugger is up here on the table. Incidentally, on the back there's a knot. And so when I cut through it, I didn't know the knot was there. You find all kinds of fun things. So I did a freehand design on the back of that. There's the walnut bowl that you saw with the tulips in it. That one was fun. I kind of blew the 1/3 surface area out the window because it does go around just a little bit further, but that's turned and carved and burned and pierced and redwood, old growth redwood. I did a cardboard pattern. There's 3 different sizes of flowers on there. It's got 2 sides. The front side got busy and I got bored and I slowed down and did the back side. There's another tree. Nice big 3-inch rim. Nice bowl. There's the Mariner's Compass. You can get tons of beautiful designs out of Mariner's Compass books. Quilters have a bunch of them. There's the wolf. One granddaughter wanted a dragon. 2 wanted fairies. I said, Spencer, what do you want? I got this nice oval piece of rimmed basswood. How about a pirate ship? And he said, I want the wolf. And I said, but really, this is a neat pirate ship. I could do this. I want the wolf. So there's the wolf, and that pattern is in several books. I took it to 2 different shows and took first place in both shows. I took it to the one down in Santa Clara. Santa Clara turners and Santa Clara carvers share a gymnasium once a year. One has half the gym, other group has the other half the gym. They have all kinds of displays and vendors down in the middle, and that's where they have their competitions. And so I entered this and a vase down there. They both took blue ribbons, but they live down in Campbell, so it was real easy for them to come over and pick it up. Can I have the ribbon? Of course you can have the ribbon. I want the wolf. He got a wolf.
Jay, how long did it take you to carve that? Or not?
That's burned.
That's what I meant.
I did it 1 week when I didn't have to drive Miss Daisy. My car is automatic pilot to quilt shops. I tease her and I say, I drive Miss Daisy in tow. I didn't know I was in trouble. I said one day, how much gas you got in your car? She said, a fat quarter. Anyway, there's a pierced rim. I've done several of those. That's fun. Another flat surface. There's a burn design in there underneath the black paint. And I marked where the divots were going to go, and just boom, 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 cut through the paint. Just having fun. Gal down the block redid her whole house in, what kind of, it's Chilean cherry. And this is a cutoff from a stair tread. And do I make a bowl out of this? I mean, it was beautiful wood. And we had a Williams-Sonoma catalog or something and had the shell in it. And hey, there's my pattern. Those are palm nuts. One of the classes I took from my friend Mr. Harvey Klein sitting back there was how to carve palm nuts. And the secret he showed me was you take that darn thing, before you ever start, you just go to the sanding belt, you put a flat bottom on it, and you glue it to the base before you ever start. And the base goes in the chuck. So after you finish that, then you do the base, and then you separate it off and you're done. Okay? Those are really fun to do. It's like carving butter. There's one of the fairy princesses. There's another one of the fairy princesses. These are all out of the Great Book of Fairies. Bought it at Michael's. There's the first dragon that I did for Megan. Out of the Great Book of Dragons. There's the thimble tree. Now it's a broader base, taller top, glass dome. There are 31 thimbles on there. I used 15 different woods and made 2 of each, 2 pairs. One pair goes down the spiral, one of the pair. The other one is carved or burned and goes down the other, so they're paired off against each other. And the top is holly, and it's got gold stars on it.
How big a blank did you start with?
For the
Thimbles.
thimbles, you can get a dowel, a 3/4 inch dowel, and do your thimbles on that if you want. But it's so easy because you know where your center is. Just drill your hole 3/4 of an inch, shape it on the inside, shape it on the outside, cut it off. And for the stippling on the end, you can either use a ball carbide or you can use a Dremel engraving tool.
Right. Very cool.
Well, anyway, it cost me about 150 or so thimbles. And glass domes. Now I turned the base, and we've got the glass dome over at Doll Houses, Trains and More in Novato, right off of 101. It's a toy store. You can't get out of there without your plastic car. I mean, Dollhouse Works, she's got 25 doll houses on pull-out trays on rotary, and you can see the inside, you can see the outside layout. She's got everything that you need for doll houses. And she's got the glass domes for the dolls themselves. So take your base over and measure what you want, and she'll help you find a dome to fit it. There's the 3 practice trees, 3 different woods. There's the grid. This we did in the class with Paul Fennell out in Antioch. and the directions were bring a hollow vessel sanded. And then we did the grid from there. And that was a bit of a challenge. Another old growth redwood bowl burned. Just put the pattern down and burn around it. I didn't like the idea of doing only a third, so I did a vase with third, a third, and a third. I cut it into 3 panels. And if you pick it up and look at it, this actually goes into the next panel. So it kind of ties itself together. But they're right. You don't see what's over here unless you're really looking for it. This was a project when we were down in San Ramon. Don White came in one day with a dozen of these. It's a candy bowl. Challenge for next month is embellish it. So I carved roses into it and put a finial on top. Speaking of finials, I noticed in a fly from AAW, Cindy Drozda is going to be up in Portland. And if you want to do finials, she's the master. We also have a tape of hers in the back room. Super, super. The wood on this one has got an interesting story. It's pepperwood. Pepper tree. And it's like working with a burl. There is no grain. It's just, and it's got inclusions and all this wild stuff. And my son is an architect down in San Jose. And he was working on a school, and they got the school finished. It's a middle school. And about a month after the kids got into the school, some jerk vandalized the school again and burned down this tree right in front of the principal's office. So Scott brought me up a whole bunch of bowl blanks out of pepperwood, and he said, can you make me something for the contractors and for the school board? So I made 15 bowls out of that pepperwood. And this is a Northwest Indian design. Douglas Fisher does all this stuff. The one that he did that I kind of copied this from has got a very irregular rim around it. And there's the bottom. Now there's no place to sign it, but my initials are in there. There's a J and an H in there. So anyway, it was just a fun thing to do because people like to pick things up and look at them. They get surprises if they see the inside of a lid or the bottom of a bowl or something like that. But pepperwood is a fun wood to work with.
Did you do 15 just like that?
No, I did 15 bowls. And they were gifts for contractors and school board members. And thanks, Grandpa. There's another lighthouse. That one's totally carved, black walnut. One year for Christmas, every year at Christmas since I started turning, everybody in the family got a bowl and an ornament. One year, I did communion sets, not for real communion, but to put display at Easter time or some special holiday. And I did a chalice and a plate. Interesting. I started that after I took a chalice and a plate class right here at Adult Ed. So that's cherry.
What kind of finishes on that?
Have relatives up in Seattle. That's Northwest Indian design. And you notice it's irregular in the patterns. They're not exactly, because I didn't know how to do them exactly at the time until I saw some videos and saw Dean Atkins' dad do his demo. Those are just random.
I like random.
So, well, random is good. And like I say, if everybody can screw it up, I'll find a way to make it fun. And there's the Celtic one. Now, I do have a niece. Tell me how I'm going to do this. Shannon Kathleen O'Connor married Daniel Jacob Goldstein. So how do I make how do I make a? Well, I found a way. That is on the chalice and a Star of David's on this. It's just for ornament. 4 little cherry carvings. This got kicked out of a carving show because it had too much carving on it. Too much carving. Okay? It's about 9 inches tall. It's got 3 layers of bricks. This got kicked out of a carving show too because I used metal leaves. Okay? Got kicked out of a carving show because we used metal leaves and they wanted everything in wood. So, Now I know. That was an interesting one to do because I decided not to just keep straight lines going up. Each one of those vertical twists as it goes up. So that was a bit of a challenge to learn how to figure out how to do that. This was a piece of, let me think here. Dean, you brought this in for the wood raffle.
Is it carrot?
No, it's
Looks like a,
not liquid amber.
is that a crotch piece?
It's a crotch piece, but I'm trying to think of the wood. Box elder.
Flame box elder.
It's box elder, and it is a crotch piece. And the rim is about 3/4 to an inch thick, and I cut under here and I cut under there, and that raised my platform. Because in your carving, you want things to pop. And I did that with a cardboard pattern, and just one left, one right, and so on. So I'm doing the thing in August, right? Okay, I'll bring that. It's a fun piece to look at, but again, this is out of the wood raffle. Beautiful piece of wood. This is Florida kids. We kept the daughter-in-law and the 2 grandkids, and it was a very bitter divorce, and they were really feeling bad. So I made a special plate, and this is on the center shelf in the middle of their dining room, and it's a special plate. If somebody has a good report card, their name goes on top. If they have a good soccer match or a lacrosse match, their name goes on top. Tammy is the daughter-in-law, and she's was a sales rep for Bristol Myers Squibb at the time. I know more about female products than I ever wanted to know because she sent all this stuff to my wife. And if she had a good sales runner, her name goes on top, and they still use it. I mean, Allie is 22 now. Will just graduated from high school. His high school was the last shooting in Florida. Too close. Ocala, Florida. But that has got to be one of the best pieces I ever made. Seen that? Black walnut, turned, carved, pierced. There we go. There's 4 of these little buggers. And you notice the design is different on every one, but yet it's the same. And the collar is different up on top. So you can just do the same basic thing over and over and practice and just make all kinds of fun little changes. This was a joke. Those are seed pod pearls from the magic trees of the enchanted forest. I was making small vases, and I was going to put drill them and put down the plastic test tube thingies for wheat pots, and the back of one of the lips broke off. And it was a design opportunity. So I went ahead and finished off the bottom. Instead of squaring it off on the bottom, I rounded it off, went to the belt sander and sanded off, and said, this is going to be fun. And so I made seed pods, and all the pearls are turned. And this is some more of that leftover piece of plywood. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. Can I take that to school for show and tell? Yeah, you can take it to school for show and tell. But those are the seed pod pearls from the magic trees of the enchanted forest. So whatever stories they told. Questions? Before I start making more of a mess.
One question, when you had a platter with the names of the 3 kids,
Yeah.
how did you put their letters in there? Just to,
I went,
they're so perfectly square or whatnot.
I went to Michael's, and in the scrapbooking section, they've got all kinds of alphabets.
Okay.
And I found one that I wanted and put them on the copy machine, and then I cut them out and did it that way.
Just go on your computer.
So they're just burned in, good old fashioned,
Very good.
almost like stippling with the burner.
These expensive.
But,
You can even get templates for
oh, you can now, yeah. But when I did that, this was a number of years ago. When I did that, they didn't exist then.
Yeah.
There's so much fun stuff out there that you can get. So, before I start making another mess, patterns I made out of that foam. Got the patterns online. These are leaves. First thing I did was they'll fit over anything. And you can use them a dozen times. I'm just going to leave these out here since we're closing down. But put 2 leaves on there. I did the stop cuts only with power. Then I took down the border around it with power. Now on the carving, you do the outside first, stop cuts, and once you get this down to the depth that you want it, which is on this, I did it to the same depth all the way around. Here, I didn't go quite that far, but then you come back through and do anything that overlaps anything else, about half of the distance, and then once you get inside that leaf, you can go back down to the same depth you did out here. But the object is to keep the same form that you started with in your carving. And then here's the finished one. Sorry I didn't get a chance to do that. Guess we'll have to do this again.
There you go.
Sounds good to me.
I'll bring these to the Thursday. Since second of August, something like that, Thursday night, SIG group, I think. Well, it's the first Thursday in August.
Right.
But anyway, and then if you're gonna paint it, practice first. Know what's gonna happen. You're gonna put finish on sanded wood, you're gonna put finish on this kind of wood, that kind of wood. Let me tell you, if you're gonna stipple the background, air bubbles will ruin you. This was my practice piece. I did, you got the leaves, you got the veins down in included, you've got the veins exposed, sticking out. The texture on the top of the leaf is different than the texture on the bottom of the leaf. So you got all kinds of decisions to make, fun stuff, and come visit us sometime and bring it in, and I'll help you.